by the end of the second workshop, makes a little bit commitment. I would contribute one paper, one article, and that. So we can manage later on how to short thing up, but contribute one each, and we will provide at least the very base knowledge for the next 10, 15 years for the construction industry in Indonesia.
Okay, thank you, Pak Bimo. So it's like a reference book, yeah, something like that, yeah. Maybe also supported by our research, yeah, if related to that. Okay, thank you, Pak Bimo. Is there any questions? So we can discuss maybe 5 minutes. Any question from TK, Gaosang, or Igor? Okay, TK, please.
Thank you, Pak Bimo. Is this working? Yes. I just want to understand ITB's perspective or your research group's perspective on your priorities. How are you expecting your group members to prioritize in terms of industry engagement, research, and teaching? So what is the proportion of or distribution of responsibilities into these three areas, and how you reward your staff based on these three areas? Do you expect them to be experts in all three, or is there a little bit more emphasis on teaching, a little bit more emphasis on industry engagement, or on research?
Speaking of which, in Indonesia, the higher education was mandated by the government, meaning that the provider of education, both institution as well as personal, are required to provide or do three things: education, meaning teaching, and then research, as well as community services. That paradigm might be true 40, 50 years ago, when experts are very scarce. So a professor in university is probably the only smart person at the university, probably the only one of the 10% in the whole country. So he was asked, or she was asked, to be the ministry. That in the past. So professor knows everything. So he do research, yes. He teach, yes. He did community services, yes. But at the lesser quality, or lesser, not quality, lesser capacity, because you cannot excellent in three areas at the same time. You have to prioritize that. And that paradigm still apply today. So it's going to be difficult to ask, for example, like me, a professor at the state university as a government employee, to fulfill the requirement to do three things, right? That's the policy. But for me, in my personal opinion, that three tasks is not to be burden for individual, but for the institution. So institution to decide. You do a lot of research, you do a lot of teaching, and you do focusing on project and community service. So if you ask me what you do here, I told you yesterday, I'm the head of the group, the head of the family. I was not chosen by the group and by the dean and given the authority to manage the member of the group. It's like collegial group. And I was chosen because they trust me, they can mediate things. So I have no authority to ask, okay, Professor Rizal, you do a lot of research, you forgot about teaching. No, that's the dean task. And the dean must balance the need for teaching, the need for research, and the need for community service. Balance means that they have to compromise between the task and the expertise. Some may do very excellent in research, but bad in teaching, right? And vice versa. So in this group, I would not ask them that, I would encourage them to do three things. It's up to them to focus. But because Indonesia still need education, I'm not saying that research is not important, but education first. So main focus is to provide the best education first. So I will make sure that when the dean assign me, look after courses that provided by the member of the group. Yeah. Make sure that the member of the group do their best to provide the courses. And the courses was listed by the head of the program. So I'm not controlling the resources. To just make sure that that happen. And also the second task that I think not only given to me, but the whole member of the group is how to divine the knowledge and how to expand and advance the knowledge. So what I do is to provide a media to exchange ideas. So when I presented just now that we try also to reach infrastructure as part of the research area or teaching area beyond construction, because it's consensus among us. The need is there, and I think we have the capacity, or we have the ability to build the capacity to provide knowledge, education, as well as training, research in the area of infrastructures. And we see also opportunity to engage more with other disciplines rather than standing alone as the construction area. I hope that answered your question. Perhaps Bu Putih or Pak Rizal would add something, please.
Yes. Thank you, Pak Bimo has explained our institution and then what regulations are, what do you call it, request us to do, basically, and the principal things. But I would like to add also that ITB is one of the oldest university or institute in Indonesia, and we are classified, internally we can say here, the most reputed in engineering. And then what the country needs from us is much more, not only to educate, but what the country needs is we contribute to what is necessary for this country to develop, not only in the engineering and in our side, in the project management science, but also in terms of intellectuality, what we call it, morality, and also what should we do, what should we say, we should advance the country needs. So for our side, in project construction industry or construction service, we should be able to contribute to what is necessary to national construction industry to develop. So we should understand what our problem is. Yeah, basically we understand what is project management, and then Pak Bimo has explained for us the area. but we should understand what is wrong with this country in construction, engineering, and management. And then we should be able to contribute, to improve, to improve, or to what we call it, memperbaiki, to correct what is wrong in the system. So, in my opinion, not only we should improve the technical operation, engineering, project management approach, yeah, such as we call it productivity, quality, safety, sustainability, risk management, etc. We should improve, but we should be able to task what is the basic principle that we are striving for. What is what we call it? What is the
People from Zoom complaining.
oh okay. So yeah, thank you, Pak Bimo. So the request from the country is much bigger than what we do internally here. We should be able to contribute to what is what we call it, what is mainly needed by this country to develop the construction industry. We can mention it, for example, how we should promote value, how we should reform infrastructure, regulatory, and organizational system, how we should promote the civil infrastructure development system. All these we should contribute. And then we understand that there are still complication, political issues in the organization or system in Indonesia. And then we should be, in my opinion, if possible, we should be able to address what is mainly needed by this country, what kind of improvement that we do, even though it is in the regulatory or in the institutional framework, even though in the value that they adopt between all the related players. Pak Bimo, saya cuma nambah sedikit itu bahwa harapan what is needed from us is much bigger to improve. We understand that the situation in your country is much different. Australia, governance always here. We still have problem in that issue. Okay, that's for time being. Nanti kita lanjutkan.
Okay, thank you, Pak Rizal. Already 5 minutes left, yeah, for questions. I think I would like to say hello to participants already joined right now. 37 participants in Zoom, including us in this room. So I would like to thank also to newcomers. Yeah, I think I see right now from UGM also. Yeah, I think there's one from ITB, which is the head of our civil engineering program. Yeah, Pak Eri Susanto joining us also. And then from Unsri, Unpar, Parahyangan University, yeah. Also from Manado, yeah, from Manado, Ibu Siri Lumeno, Pak Rizal's doctor students, yeah, or Ibu Putih. Both. Okay. And then I can see the Pak Krishna also joining, yeah. Thank you, Pak Krishna. And then who else? Pak Felix, yeah, Pak Felix also from Unpar. I think Pak Bimo's student, yeah, Dr. Student Felix, yeah. I think he did the research on legal aspect, yeah, at the time, yeah. Oh, Sabto also joining us. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for participating in this workshop. I would like the next speaker will be Dr. Gausang. I think Dr. Gausang, you should introduce yourself first. Okay, and then you can introduce the university and
okay. Pak Abdul.
Yes, Pak Krishna.
There is also Pak Suraji from Universitas Andalas
Oh,
and
yeah.
Pak Arman from Universitas Persada.
Yeah, I already greet
Yeah.
them. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, Gosang, time's yours.
Okay, very good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me, especially those online. Okay. Okay. First of all, I would like to express my interest. Sorry, express my appreciation to the colleagues here in ITB for inviting me to be a visiting scholar to this great university. I had a really good time here. I'll be also looking forward to the trip tomorrow. Oh, sorry, this afternoon to Jakarta as well. So this is actually my first time traveling to Pantong and Jakarta. So really good so far. Okay, my name is Gao Sha. I am a senior lecturer at the Melbourne University. I work for the Faculty of Architecture, Building and Planning, which also incorporates the Melbourne School of Design. So basically, I work with architects and urban planners. I don't work with engineers because engineers are the other faculty, which is a bit of a shame. I like to work with engineers. Senior lecturer is my full-time job. I'm also a director of Link Construction Australia and New Zealand, the Victoria Council. As you can see, that my research is in the Link Construction space. As a director, we also run monthly committee of practice. Thank you. We run monthly committee of practice promoting Link Construction to share the best practice of Link Construction among the Australian construction firms. Now I'd like to introduce my university, the Melbourne University, the faculty, the research, as well as the team. The last few slides is about my vision about this Australia-Indonesia Research Center for Construction. So I've got a couple of slides, but we can discuss more about the research opportunities on the second day of the workshop. So this is the university I work for, the University of Melbourne. As you can see from this slide, it's a #1 university in Australia. This is no argument, I think, from my perspective. It is constantly, it is constantly ranked pretty high in the global rankings, especially the QS rankings. We are top 20, climbing up to number 14, which made us very, very popular. And because of this high ranking, that attract a lot of international students, especially those from China, because the employer in China, they like the graduate from top universities. So that's the ranking. The university is established in 1853. It's the second oldest university in Australia. The oldest is Sydney. There's a couple of more rankings I'd like to share with all of you. QS, we are ranked 14. The Times Higher Education, we are about 34. The second ranking is quite interesting. It is ranked by Shanghai Jiao Tong University academic ranking of world universities. This ranking is very much research focused. So we are still managed to be ranked 32. So our Vice Chancellor is quite happy about these rankings. In terms of the subject, I teach into construction management, and the construction is part of the architecture, built environment family, and this discipline is ranked #1 in Australia, but 23 in the world. So it's not too bad. We have a large number of students currently enrolled, study at Melbourne Uni, about 52,000 students. We have many alumni all over the world. They have alumni offices in these countries as well. The international students counts about 41%, but this is the average figure. In the construction management program, the master programs in particular, I would say in my class, it's about 70% international students. Yeah, then the rest of it are the locals. We're also ranked number 8 in terms of the graduate employability, meaning that our students are quite popular by the employers. Then some other facts. The Faculty of Architecture, Building and Planning, it is one of the oldest faculty in the university. In 2019,
Cok, ini perkiraan yang
150 years of establishment.
Cok,
The
ini
picture shows the pictures. Look at the picture. These
Cok.
are former deans. The lady standing on the right hand side. She is our current dean, Julie Willis. She's the one that holding the 0, right? The one in the middle, Tom Coman is TK's best friend. So yeah, you can see that TK has a very good connections with the university and the big bosses. Not me, I'm just a senior lecturer. The picture that you see, the architecture building you see is my faculty. It is a very nice looking building demonstrating we are the architecture faculty. Moving on, so in Melbourne Uni, we only offer a handful of the bachelors. One of the bachelor is titled Bachelor of Design. In the Bachelor of Design, there are 12 majors from architecture, civil systems, computing, all the way to urban planning. I like to point it out that this 12 major is offered by 3 faculties. The Faculty for Architecture, Building and Planning, my faculty, we offer the majors like the architecture major, construction, then landscape architecture, which is the first one, second row, and then property, which is in the middle, and the last one, urban planning. So this is the majors that offered by my faculty, Faculty of Architecture, Building and Planning. Civil systems, mechanical systems, computing, and digital technologies, and spatial systems. These majors are offered by the engineering faculty. And last but not least, graphic design, the last one on the first row, and the performance design, the third one on the second row, they are offered by the Faculty of Arts. So 3 faculties, they offer this Bachelor of Design, but in different majors. So that's the establishment. This slide is quite interesting. We encourage the students to, first of all, to sort of think about what career they can choose. That's the first step. So if the students want to be an architect in future, they probably will end up with the major in architecture. If the students want to be an engineer, they probably will look for the majors in civil, mechanical, or spatial engineering, plus, of course, the Master of Engineering. If the students are interested to become a construction professional, and urban planners are, they will be taking up design-specific major or masters of the urban designs. All right. Quite interestingly, that our construction professional, the program is accredited by a couple of peak bodies. In BMO's presentation, I didn't notice your program, whether the program has been accredited by any accreditation bodies, but we are very passionate about, enthusiastic about being accredited by local peak bodies and the international body. Right, okay. All right. So we are accredited by AIB, that's Australia Institute of Builder. RICS, that's Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. That is QS related. And AI-CRC, that's a local institute of the quantity surveyors. That's a local quantity surveyor body. This is actually an old slide, and we are now accredited by CIOB, Chartered Institute of Building. All right. So Chartered CIOB, RICS are the international accreditation body, headquartered in London, UK. AIB, AI-CRC, and these are the local peak bodies, industry bodies. Look at the architect. Architects are only accredited by AIA. We got 5 accreditations. So that's the first one. Your careers for the students to understand what kind of professional they will choose. Then they will choose the bachelor degree, that is the Bachelor of Design, and then they will choose the major that match or provide the pathways to their professionals. And then we also strongly encourage the students to finish the bachelor and come back for their masters, because for some of the professional accreditation, like architects, they can only get the architecture license after he graduates with master degree. So if they only graduate with the major in architecture, Bachelor of Design, they are not able to get a license, something like that. All right. So the step 3 is, of course, to continue to further their studies into our masters of the master's program, the postgraduate program. All right. This is the trajectory of the mappings of the Bachelor of Design. The Bachelor of Design runs it's a 3-year program. This is a very common in the Commonwealth countries. I find this is very confusing because I'm come from China. China, it is a 4-year program for most of the undergraduate program. For architects, for some of the civil engineering program, medicines in China, it is a 5-year program. But here it is 1 year less. So it's a 3-year program running on 300 points, which means that one subject, it is 12.5 points. Each semester, students will take up to 4 subjects, totaling 50. So 1 year, 2 semester, totaling 100 points. So the students are encouraged to do a number of the elective subjects. So the elective subjects are the design subjects outside of the major. So if the students doing construction major, the students will be offered to study outside the construction major, like architecture, property, and things, so on and so forth. That is in the orange cell. The students are also encouraged to take the breadth subject, which is outside of the Bachelor of Design, meaning they need to look for, let's say, business subject, psychology, language, whatever. All right. So you look at this picture, almost half of it are elective plus breadth, then half of it is construction or whatever major related. So this is how we set up the bachelor's degree. Coming from China, I have a little bit of reservation about this setup, but the Melbournes are quite proud of this Melbourne model. All right. Yeah. So now I start to appreciate this kind of setups. All right. My reservation mainly comes that the construction major, the elements is not strong enough, not big enough, because they are offered to. Yes.
Yeah, design is, I think, is a very special word. Yeah, you use design everything, the basic one.
Yes.
Can you tell us the philosophy of design? One, design is the main.
The design. Okay. So if you look at this one, the design includes architecture, which is the design of the building. They also includes graphic design that is offered by the arts, the faculty of arts. They have got the performance design, that's performing arts. That's like music, like that, this kind of the very other side of the spectrum. All right. And the urban plannings, spatial systems, this is a design of the urban level, city level, municipal level, or precinct level. So this is the design covers the industry, city, building, even a little project like the tables and chairs. These are all falls under this, let's say, the taxonomy of design. All right.
Okay. So design is the what do we call it? The very important thing in all this area. Design is creating.
Creating, yes.
Creating.
Yes.
But I didn't forget about design.
Yes, it's being a creative professional. So that's why if you step foot in my faculty, you'll see a lot of creative objects currently being exhibited to the students, to the staff, and to the public.
So insist that design is very important for the student. Design is very important for our student. Design is creating. Yeah, design is different with technology. Technology is the product. Design, engineering is the very important thing. As you always state in your explanation.
Okay.
So
That's
we
good.
should give emphasis on design capacity for all our students, especially in our Institute Teknologi Bandung.
Yes.
Why? So for your information, we are not aware about that.
I'm
Thank
very glad that you appreciate this design thing. As a construction professional, for the first few years after I joined the university, I couldn't appreciate like what you just said. But I'm really glad that you mentioned this. It's very, very important. It's a very creative thing. Coming back to the construction major, one of the 12 major under the Bachelor of Design. So this is our suggested study plan for the students. I'm sorry, the font is small, so I have breakdown with bigger font for you. So this is what we suggest to the student. If the students are interested to do the construction major of the Bachelor of Design. This is the subjects that the students will be take for the first year. If you look at the first year, the student didn't learn much about the construction. So there are only 3 construction major: understanding the built environment, principle of building, and principle of the business law. So the principle of the business law covers something like what Bimo just said, the legal aspects of the building. All right, so this is all sorts of the laws will be covered in this subject. And you look at that, the students are given opportunity to explore the electives, the breadth subject. Why the students are given this opportunity is because we are very open to the students. If after the first year, if you want to change the major, you are more than welcome, because they are given the opportunity to try the electives, which is outside of the construction major. After year 1, they will say, okay, sorry, I don't like construction. I like architecture. I like property. So then they will sort of shift to a different major since the second year. So this is the inside the construction, inside the school of design, inside the Bachelor of Design. Yeah, all right. And then this is the second year and the third year offering for the studies. So in second year, we're offering the construction of residential building, environmental building systems, construction of concrete building used to be taught by TK, I believe. Measurement of building designs. This is the subject of my teaching portfolio. I looked after this subject. I've seen the decline number of the students enroll in my subject, which is a bit of shame. Quite disappointed that they don't want to become a QS professional. They want to try more construction-related, site-related job. All right. But on second year, we are still offering them the elective and the breadth. So it's a 50-50 kind of arrangement. Then on the third year, the students will be taking more complicated, advanced construction-related subjects like steel and concrete structural system. Again, this subject was taught by TK, and I understand that a lot of students failed. So this is the one of the subject. Then we have got the construction management, sort of to providing the students some the understandings of the construction management fundamentals. The industry partner project studios. This is an interesting subject that we link the students to the employers, their signature project, and then they would do something about it. Another subject is construction and contract administration. So these are the so-called construction major related subject. That's it. That's what we teach in the construction major of the Bachelor of Design. All right. The rest of it is the electives, the breadth, and that's the construction major. All right. But some students, they say, I would like to do double major. That's okay. So the double, if the students trying to do double major, then they will give up. They will need to give up all the electives and the breadth, turning the electives and the breadth into an architecture major. Then the students will graduate with double major, construction and architecture. If the students want to do another major in, let's say, civil systems, then they will do the civil systems plus construction. So we offer them these kind of options. Can be a single major, can be a double major, can be a major plus minor, construction major, architecture minor. There's a lot of combinations in our Bachelor of Design. So that's the bachelor study. Then we, as I said, we'll encourage the students to move towards the Masters of the Construction Management, MCM. Again, this is a 200 and 300 program, depends on your background. This is also something I find very strange in the very start, in the beginning. In China, if the student's first degree is not construction, he or she will not be able to qualify for the Master of Construction Management. That's the case in China. But here, seems different. If the student's first degree, the bachelor degree, is not construction, you can still apply Masters of Construction Management, but you will be offered a 3-year program. If the student has a construction management, construction background, some of the subjects will be waived given the advanced standing. Then they will enter into a 2-year, 200 points program. But in the class, 200, 300, they sit together. Right? So this is a bit of a strange thing to me, but that's the arrangement of the university. All right? So this is the typical 300 points. On year one, these are the core subjects: construction of the building, materials of the structure, management of the construction, environmental systems, cost management, contract management, concrete management, concrete construction system, steel structure. If the students, let me come back to this bachelor's of design. If the students did the measurement of the building design from the bachelor, then the students will not, there will be no need for the students to take the cost management because it's the same. So the students will be given the opportunity to waive this subject. Does this make sense? So this is how we arrange the masters. The second year will include the subjects I listed here. So second year, the students will be asked to do a research in construction subject. So this is the first the research subject. And then in year 3, it's project management and some specialization elective. For example, the research practicum. The research practicum is the second session of the research subject, but since it is a specialization elective, quite unfortunately, not many students take up this subject. So it's a bit of a shame. Looking at the structure, the Melbourne's Master of the Construction is sort of designed with 3 pathways, or 3 trajectories. The first trajectory is building. The building is mainly for the graduates working for the construction firms. The cost management mainly for the QS companies, estimation roles, and the project management. It is mainly for the client or the consultant, PM consultant. And of course, some of them end up with the construction company as well. So that's the 3 trajectories. Right? This is our student enrollment by country citizenship. Of course, Australian, the local students take the majority. The second, in terms of the overseas by country, China, we have a lot of Chinese students. Indonesia is not bad. It's ranked top 4. About 100 students are currently studying in either our Bachelor of Design or the Masters program as well. So this is the statistics from our faculty, all the programs. All right. We have research hubs, labs, and the centers. There are many of them, but what I listed here are the ones that are related to construction or built environment. There are many hubs and labs and centers, but this is the one that just relate to the construction or built environment. The first one I listed here is the Advanced Digital Design and Fabrication, short for ADD+F. Is a research hub that explores the relationship between design and technology. As you can see from the name, we have members from the architecture as well as construction that sort of working or classified under this hub. The other one is the retrofitting hub, which is the recent hub, recently established hub. The retrofitting lab sort of align with the research priority. Let's look at the sustainability things that EB also has. All right. So this is the second lab. The next one is Sustainable and Healthy Environment Lab. It has a very fancy acronym, SHE, SHE Lab. Again, there are a couple of construction and architecture academics involved in SHE Lab. A lab specialized in developing applied research aimed at understanding how the built environment can improve sustainability and health through the design of high-performance spaces. So basically look at the architectural engineering or building science disciplines, indoor air quality, thermal conditions, or this kind of research. All right. There's looking at, just give you a sense that what is the structure of one of the lab, ADD plus F. We have got the co-directors, three of them are architects. Then we've got the researchers. I'm happy to share that the first researcher, Ajibadi, is one of the construction team. All right. And this is one of the research that led by Ajibadi. It is titled Digital and Data-Driven Innovation in Assets Delivery, Operations, and all right. There are current projects looking at RIM, how they identify, explore, and testing the data related to the assets, operations, and so on and so forth. So it is very, very construction related. So it's head by my colleague Ajibadi. Right? There's another one that I'd like to share with you guys as well. This is a lab called Smart Village Lab. And this lab is led by my colleague, Associate Professor Hamanta Loy. He is a project management background, but now he sort of shift to look at the smart village. He's from India, and he tried to kind of apply this knowledge and research in his home country and across the globe. He has a conference called Consvat, and he also has monthly webinars program. I'm in the mailing list, and if anyone from Indonesia, ITB in particular, wants to be involved with smart villages, I'm assuming that there are many villages in remote area of Indonesia, and this is actually a very good forum to participate. All right. The lab was initially sponsored by the Indian government, about, I don't know, $2 million, something like that. So that's why we have a lab for that. We have some other facilities in the university, in the faculty, sort of digital technology related. The students can access it. The academic member can access that as well. I believe some of you has visited these labs. There are 3 labs. One is the fabrication lab. The students can do their assignment because they're making things, design. We have got the design. You're gonna make it, realize the design. So this is the space that the students can use 3D printings, CNC machines to produce their work. Right? And we've got the robotic lab, as you can see from the second photo, that we've got the robotic arms. Again, the students can design something. They can use the robotic arms to print, to do that, the work for them. And we have got the next lab, NEXT lab. The lab is okay, housing a few key technologies, 3D printing, 3D scanning, and mixed ready technologies. So this is the digital space. Now coming back to the construction team at the ABP, architecture and the building and the planning. This is all of us. I removed TK because he left us. Yesterday I forgot to remove him, but today I was reminded he is no longer with us. Now I joined the faculty 2017. We only have 1 female academic. That is our chair professor, Professor Valerie Francis, the first one on the first row. But because of this gender diversity, they start to recruit female construction members. That's why we have Dr. Yang Wei, the female on the second row. She happened to be my classmate at NUS when we are doing PhD together. And then the first one on the third row, Hannah Robinson, who was our PhD student. So now we have got 4, and there's another research fellow, two more research fellows, so five female members. And then now we have just completed the new recruitment for one senior lecturer and one associate professor. The name hasn't been announced yet, but we already know who they are. We have only two full professors. That's the first two pictures. Professor Valerie Francis, Professor Robert Crawford. Then the third one is Professor Hamenta. I'm not sure my cursor will work. No, so this is Hamenta. He's the one that he's the boss of this smart village. The first one, Ajibati, he's in the data space. I think I've got. I'll come back to the staff profile. We have the teaching retreat. So this is all of us. Yes. I won't say we are, well, I really like this concept of the family concept, but I think I don't think we are family yet. We're just working, it's a team, right? Okay. Research team. So this is the research focus. Drawing from the research expertise of the construction team, we come up with this PPP framework. This is not public-private partnership. That's people, products, and the process. So this is also a very interesting name. For the people, we focus on the resource management related, recruitment, retention. We also focus on the education, training, using VR, AR, this kind of technologies. Process is very much related to the construction process. You know, all this lean, risk management, knowledge management, constructability, safety falls under the process area. And of course, there's products related focus, modularization, prefabrication, digital technologies. We classify that under products, as well as advanced new building materials like glass. All right. So this is our focus on the three areas. Then we also focus on the sector, which is the industry, the company level, as well as the project level. All right. So look at the lean, which is one of the themes. We have lean thinking at the company level and the lean tools and the techniques at the project level. So this is how we sort of differentiate between different levels. All right. This is the team's research interest. Valerie Francis is the chair. She is in the area of work-life balance, gender equity, construction education, and things like that. Hamenta Deloy, project management, life cycle, and smart village is his thing. Dr. Paulo from Portuguese, he's a senior lecturer. He look at risk management, knowledge management, and procurement methods. Dr. Vido, he look at the building performance, residential construction, and VR in construction. And we have Dr. Andrew Mattel. He look at the more housing side of the construction. Dr. Hannah Robertson, she look at the original architecture stuff. She recently get a research grant from the government called DECRA. Once she got the DECRA, she don't need to teach. 3 years, spending 3 years in research only. So this is kind of the privilege, all right? And Dr. George Mattel, he looked at the construction history, tall building, and the building materials. Then we have this group of the 4 people led by Robert Crawford. If you look at the research interests of these four academics, they are very much sustainability related, life cycle assessment, architectural engineering. They are Robert Crawford, Chris Jensen, James Hala, and Dr. Yang Wei. And then we have got these four people more into the cost management, data, because this is what we teach. I put myself in this group is because Ajibadi is my supervisor. As you can see that my research is in the lean construction 4.0 things. Ajibadi are in the area of digital technologies, IoT, value for money, and things like that. And we have got the Dr. Tim O'Leary, he's a lecturer, and Dr. Maran Orin, he is our beam guy. All right. So this is another group. All right. So we have the Doctors of Philosophy program, the PhD. I used to sit in the selection committee, so I know a little bit about the Doctor of Philosophy requirement. It's a 4-year full-time, but of course you can extend it to 5 years. In terms of the requirement, I always say that we have 3 requirements. The first requirement is that you have to have a very strong academic performance. In numerical number, it will be ideally 80 plus. So that will be the first requirement. For students coming from non-English background, you need to have English evidence. For example, ELTS, it was 7, but now dropped to 6.5 case by case. The last requirement is a very good research proposal. So with these 3 requirements, students, for example, from ITB are more than welcome to apply. All right. But our PhD program is very competitive. We have about 20 scholarships every year. 10 are for the domestic students, meaning that they are PR or Australian citizen. Another 10 scholarship for the international students. And don't forget, this 10 PhD or 20 PhD is not for construction. It's for the faculty, the 12 majors, not 12 major, the architecture discipline, landscaping, urban planners, the properties and the constructions are all fighting for this 10 PhD. So that's why we have very, very limited number of the PhD, come up from construction discipline. So, all right, vision for AI for Australia-Indonesia CRC. This is my personal vision, but it is open for a debate or for discussion. One of the center or the hub or this establishment I would like to refer to all of you is the University Industry Collaboration in the States. They have the thing called Construction Industry Institute, CII. I happen to be a member of it, so that I can access all the wonderful resources that they have got. So CII is based in the University of Texas at Austin. Our AI, Australia-Indonesia construction research can base in ITB, for example. In terms of the members, we welcome the contractors, institutions, academic institutions, of course, the clients as well, the public clients in the public sector or in the private sector. They produce a lot of the lean-related research, so that's why I'm quite familiar with it. They have a strong track record in researching lean all the way back to 2002, lean principle in construction, implementing roadmap of lean construction at the project level, challenges and the opportunities for promoting collaborative scheduling, that's last planner system. And now recently they talk about AWP. I'm not sure you heard about this. AWP means advanced work packaging plus lean construction, exploring the opportunities. So this AWP is more for modular and prefabricated construction. They publish this. If you are the member, you can access the research material. But ultimately, the research is actually to benefit the industrial members, trying to solve the industrial problems. So they have got a sort of a guideline in terms of how to helping the industry. First of all, they give access to the industry members to access the material. Then they will help them to plan, to learn and the material, and they will kick off and see if the research fundings can be implemented in their company. So I quite like this kind of the model. All right. Work with the industry, solve the problem, come up with a research report, and then implement it in their companies, see if they have improvement. I think this is something that we can certainly look in terms of a reference point. The other industry university collaboration is one from Finland. It's called the Building 2030. It could be a very catchy vision for us as well. So this is an initiative by the Aalto University in Finland. They work with a group of 21 companies. They have different levels, standard level of member and steering group levels. And they have looking at very specific research. If you look at it, many are related to lean construction as well. Lean design management, packaging in production, MEP prefabrications, measurement of waste, platform-based technologies. These kind of themes are the themes that they have done in the past few years from 2016 and 2019. Again, it is the research problem from the industry, then the universities sort of work towards it and share the fundings with the industry. The next one we can look at is the research initiative in Australia. It's called CRC Building 4.0. It has the name CRC in our group as well. So this is the establishment run by another Victorian university, Monash University. Very interesting. They have got different stakeholders, partners. Melbourne Uni is also part of it, but not my faculty. They also have got the contractors, subcontractors, industry bodies being the partner, sponsor. So this is the areas, the research areas they look at. These are very related to the Australian context. They look at the people, they look at the sustainability, they look at digitalization as well as the transition. So I think these are the maybe the future trajectories for the construction sector. Let me repeat. That's people focus, sustainability, digital, and industrial. So this could be a good reference point for us for this center as well. For each pillar, they break down a very specific research topics for it. All right. So that's me. That's Melbourne Uni and the faculty. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Gausang. I think it's very interesting. Yeah. You also mentioned the last slides. Yeah. Propose models, or maybe 3 models. Yeah, from CII and then Aalto from Finland and also from Monash. Yeah. I think, but that the important thing that we have to invite the industrial members to join the research collaboration network here. Okay, so we have like 10 minutes for question and answer. I would like also to invite participant online. Yeah, I noticed that Professor Jati from Undip Semarang also joining us here. So, any question from participants? Please raise hand. Anyone? Yeah, Ibu Putih.
Thank you, Pak Abdul. It's interesting, Goshan, to know the Bachelor of Design curriculum. In the courses that are offered in the Bachelor of Design in your university, are there any courses related to design of structural build or design of engineering structures that needs civil engineering basic knowledge? So maybe in no, not in master's.
Okay.
Bachelor of Design.
Bachelor design, I think the first year, the students only study the key element,
Yeah.
the fundamentals of the built environment, who are the professionals, how the built environmental works. Principle of building is to understand the key elements of the building, not the design. Principle of the business law is how the regulation works, what are the laws involved. Back to your question, if we have the design of the construction structuring, there are two subjects may be relevant. One is the subject titled The Construction of the Concrete Building, second year.
Yeah.
Another subject is Steel and the Concrete Structure Systems. That is the third year. These are the two subjects used to taught by TK, but I don't think it's teaching them about the design. It's teaching them to understand how this structure works. It could be the structure, concrete structure, steel structure, or mix. Is that correct, TK? That's right. Yeah, I think you'll be better to explain. Is that the design of?
Yeah, in structural engineering, for example.
So your question was, what do we teach in construction of concrete buildings and steel and concrete structural systems?
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder whether the students in the Bachelor of Design course are also given the basics of
Design.
structural engineering.
Okay. So before I answer that question, let me explain how builders and engineers work in Australia. Over here in Indonesia, all your engineers are trained first as engineers. They will then choose to either become design consultants or work for construction companies. In Australia, it's very different. Engineers are almost always in consulting. And the contractors come from construction management degrees. So construction management degrees are taught by, for example, University of Melbourne and Deakin University. They are not trained as design engineers. So if you look at the first year subjects, there will be some mechanics of solids, some materials, some statics, some structural mechanics, but very fundamental level. When we teach construction of concrete buildings, it is how to build concrete structures, not how to design concrete structures. So they must know that concrete is made out of cement, sand, and aggregates, and water. What are the properties? So if you add too much water, concrete becomes weaker. But they do not know exactly what water-cement ratio. So we don't teach them the exact calculation of water-cement ratio to strength. But they understand the concept that if WC ratio is low, you get higher strength. Yes, but they need to know what impacts concrete strength.
So the responsibility for the structural safety is not
still,
on them.
it's half-half. Structural safety is half-half. The design engineer takes responsibility for the design. The builder takes responsibility for the the construction.
30K. Quite. To pass by the engineering school, we can also pass through the diploma. What is it called? Which we don't teach the basic engineering, the mechanics or etc. So here in Indonesia, to become a project manager, we can pass also through diploma. What do we call it?
Professional certification.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that it's different. So this program doesn't teach structural design.
Wow. Through vocational education, not through academic.
Not
and
through
yeah,
academic,
okay.
okay.
Vocational can
Yes.
pass through the project.
So when I teach concrete buildings, it's how to build, not the design.
Sorry. I have another question. Intersection between the faculty of design and the faculty of engineering. Bachelor of design and
correct.
bachelor.
When we offer those subjects, we have students in architecture taking those subjects. We have students from civil engineering taking those subjects. So those who are interested in both design and construction will do both. And I think we have double majors. You didn't have time to speak about double majors. In the bachelor's, the students are encouraged to do double majors. So they can be double major in architecture construction. Then at the master's level, they can either choose to major in one, or now they can major in both. So you take extra time. And did you talk about art eng? Not enough time to talk about architecture and engineering. So sorry for speaking on behalf of University of Melbourne, because I no longer represent University of Melbourne. They have an architecture plus a master's of engineering combined. So you then qualify professionally as an architect and as a structural engineer, which could be of interest to some people here. Okay. 2 questions on. Can someone read out the questions?
Okay, Pak Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Pak Abdul. Sorry for my participation from far away. And when I'm required to sign in, I sign in as a lecturer from another university in Jakarta, not from ITB, because theoretically I am not an ITB member anymore. Theoretically, but in practice, I'm still contributing to the education process at ITB. My questions, actually, it's not only questions, it's more comments. I'm interested in the three models proposed by Gosang for this kind of research collaboration network, which is the CII, the Finland model, and the Monash University model. So I think we need some time to discuss, to develop more on this research networking model. Maybe Gosang you can propose something that more reflecting the needs of both Indonesia and Australia in terms of construction research. And in particular for Indonesia, we are a disaster-prone country. So I would love from my personal point of view, I would love to see that our research network also consider approaches to deal with disaster issues in Indonesia related to the construction industry, which is my research interest in the past at ITB. How construction industry can contribute to improve or to lower the vulnerability of our structures, of our infrastructures to various hazards in Indonesia, and in particular to earthquake. So it would also be interesting to see that our research network involve also representative from this side, beside from the industry and also from the owners. Owners could be government institutions and also private sector like developers, property developers. So this is my suggestions maybe to Gosang.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we all agree that Gaushang will do that part, yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So there's another question from Sabto. Okay, Sabto, are you still with us? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Abdu. Okay, thank you for your presentation, Dr. Kausang. I want to ask on how do you make the student aware the complexity of the constructions, especially in teaching lean constructions, which is quite useful in the perspective of practitioners. Well, as the students, based on my experience while I became a student, I kind of have the gap to understand the concept and starting to fill in the gap while I become practitioner. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, so let me just share some of my experience on that matter. Take the example of the two subjects I teach at the master level, at the postgraduate level. I teach health and safety, environment, and quality. That's one subject. I also teach lean construction. So my approach is that it's a 3-hour lecture. My approach is that the first 2 hours, I will talk about the theory. I will cover the concepts, the principles. Then the last 1 hour, the third hour, the building professionals from the industry. Say, for example, the safety subject, I will invite the safety directors from large contractors in Australia, asking them come to the lecture and share with the students the best practice, what things they do about the safety. So that kind of interaction will help the students to understand what's going on in the industry. So this is my approach. Some other subjects, the lecturers, the subject coordinators will bring the students to the site to do a little bit of a site visit, also helping them to understand what's going on in that space. What else? So that's the common approach to help address the gaps as you mentioned. Because let's say if you're teaching quality, safety, we deal with a lot of standards, laws, and regulations. It could be very, very dry. And we need to understand that how the builders, the construction firms, how they interpret it and how they implement it. So that will be a good example that to bring them in the class and share with the students. And we also have another initiative is that we can talk to the industry people. If they have any problems, I can design that problems in my assignment for the students to sort of creatively propose if there's any solutions. That's basically.
Okay, due to the time limit, I think
You,
we
I
have
hope that
to
answers your
move
question.
on. Yeah. Okay. If
Okay,
you have
thank
further
you.
questions, yeah, just write down the question on the chat. Okay. So I think next time, if we have time, I think the one that you are ask question can answer that. I think it will the to- okay. Next. Okay. Test. 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 Okay,
Yes.
TK, time's yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Abdul. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. My Chan, some of you may know me from previous visits. And what I want to do today is talk about the construction program at La Trobe University. When I came previously, I was at the University of Melbourne. 3 months ago, I decided to leave the University of Melbourne to join La Trobe University. So all the slides that I'm talking about today is from a La Trobe perspective. And I'll spend the first maybe 20 minutes talking about the construction program at La Trobe, and also maybe explain to the audience why I chose to leave my previous university to move to La Trobe. Okay, some of the text has jumped off a bit. La Trobe University is much smaller than University of Melbourne. We have 35,000 students across 7 campuses. We have 8,000 international students and more than 180,000 alumni. We are Victoria's 3rd oldest university. We are state funded, and we have all those campuses around the state of Victoria. Established in 1967, so when you compare to other universities, we are relatively young. We are a leading teaching and research university. We claim to have strong international education background, focusing on health, business, and engineering. Now, obviously, when you talk about ranking, certain universities aim to be #1 in the world. We focus on other things. So, because we are a relatively young university, right? You need 100 years of history to become #1. So we are top 50 in the world for those universities that are under 50 years old. We claim to only be top 1% of universities in the world, not the top university. And we have lots of undergraduate programs across our campuses. If you have been to the University of Melbourne, you will find that La Trobe is very green. We are far away from the city. We are in a very leafy and green suburb. We have rivers, we have lakes, and we have no traffic jams. So I'm physically in the Bandura campus. We are about 15 kilometers to the north of the CBD. We have other campuses in Bendigo. So one of the major activities or major focus of La Trobe University is to provide education to the regional areas. We have a little campus in the CBD, so that allows us to run workshops, to run industry engagement, very similar to what ITB is doing in Jakarta. So let me very briefly introduce the School of Computing, Engineering and Mathematical Sciences and the Department of Engineering. I'm trained initially as a structural engineer. I then moved into construction management, and I feel that my move to La Trobe University has brought me back to my roots, which is engineering. The school has 3 departments, 3 academic departments, so obviously engineering. We also have computer science and information technology within the school, and mathematical and physical sciences, so maths and physics. So facilities, obviously, as an up-and-coming technological based university. The school has advanced manufacturing. We have the manufacturing, digital manufacturing labs, workshops, and the bulk of investment is into all these new facilities, both at the Melbourne campus, the Bandura campus, and also at the Bendigo campus. This building is purpose-built for students studying engineering and technology in Bendigo. So Bendigo is about 120 kilometers north of Melbourne, very regional area. It would take me maybe hour and a half to drive up there. So when I talk about the programs, we actually offer a lot of these programs in parallel. We have students enrolled in Melbourne and students enrolled in these regional areas doing the same courses. It's quite challenging sending academic staff from Melbourne up to Bendigo on alternate days. Sometimes we do it alternate weeks just to provide them with a face-to-face experience. We claim to be very practical in our courses. So students get a multidisciplinary flavor to the engineering programs. And I think one of the most important aspects of the engineering program out there is the ability to bridge the gap and transition between industry and university. So all our students go through what we call a work integrated learning or an applied research project with industry, which I will explain more extensively later on. We offer 5 engineering masters. Only 4 has been listed here. So these are the original 4 that were on offer before I joined. So that's the Master of Engineering Civil, Manufacturing, Electronics, Telecommunications, and Network. So we have the labs and the workshops to support the delivery of these 4 masters. As I've mentioned, the Master of Engineering includes a 6-month work integrated learning program. It provides students with 800 hours of industry-based learning, plus to encourage them to take up this work integrated learning, we offer them an $11,000 scholarship for eligible students. So they are in effect getting a scholarship while working and gaining experience in industry. We also understand that it's not possible to provide work integrated learning places for all our students. So it is possible to also do this as a research project at university with industry collaboration or with industry input. So why La Trobe? La Trobe graduates have always found employment very quickly upon graduation. So employers love our La Trobe graduates. Employers ranked our graduates as the best for their ability to adapt, apply skills and knowledge, and work independently. The references for all these claims are shown at the bottom left-hand corner of the slide. And we also say that we have 95.6% of our undergraduate engineers finding employment within 4 months of graduation. So those are our major selling points. I can remove the grayed out areas, but my colleagues here may not be very happy. So that basically shows that for 2023, we have 95.6% of our graduates employed 4 months after graduation. So let me then introduce the Master of Construction and Engineering Management. It's a new program. It was started in 2022. This is just the 2nd year of the Construction and Engineering Management program. There's a great demand for construction professionals. The Australian government talks about 200 billion worth of construction work annually. Why La Trobe? It gives you a blend of knowledge and skills to meet these challenges. We are only offering this at a master's level, as opposed to what you've heard or what you will hear from my 2 colleagues over here. We do not offer this at a bachelor's level. So we are not training we're not offering a bachelor's of construction management. So all the students that come into the master's program will need to have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering or architectural engineering. Or based on circumstances, we may take students with other areas of engineering. It will supplement, so we assume that they have some technical skills in design, and we will supplement those skills with the management skills necessary to manage complex building, civil, and infrastructure projects. The team, what I'm showing you is not the entire engineering team. These are the team members that's teaching into the construction program. Most of them have a background in engineering or civil engineering. So we have geotechnical engineering, structural engineering. I brand myself more, or I describe myself more as a construction economist because I don't really teach into structures anymore. We have, honestly, we only have 2 people teaching specifically into the construction engineering program. We are looking for staff number 3. And if any one of you are interested or have a PhD student who is close to completion and willing to work in Australia, encourage them to apply. All right. So most of the academic staff come from a civil engineering background. A course overview. We offer the masters over 2 years or 4 semesters. So you can see that the work integrated learning is on 3rd semester and 4th semester. That takes up half their time. And the rest of the 12 subjects will be spread out over the remaining 4 semesters. It's a lot easier if I were to organize them this way, the subjects. So there will be 3 subjects in the technology stream, 3 subjects in construction management, 3 subjects in management and innovation shown in light brown, and then research skills or work integrated learning is on the 4th column on the right. So when somebody asks me, how do you organize your program? I say that we have equal emphasis on technology, on construction management, on management and innovation, and the 4th pillar is research or work integrated learning skills. But Bimo, we will share the slides so you do not have to take pictures. The bit in light brown is common across all the Masters of Engineering. So that allows us a lot of efficiency in terms of teaching the subjects. That the 3 subjects over there are common across 5 Masters of Engineering programs. And it also meant that they could start the program in 2022 without hiring me. Right? So the program commenced in 2022. We now have a very high demand of master's students, mainly civil engineering bachelor's degrees, who want to transition from a more design or engineering career into a more practical construction career. So we took in 100 students in 2022, and again, another 100 students in 2023. So if you guys have ideas on research projects, I have 100 students that I need to supervise when I get back. And remember what I said, right? We only have staff members. Looking for staff number 3. So one of my major responsibilities is to decide on focus areas. Because it's a new program, we have to decide what we need to do, how we differentiate ourselves from other construction programs in Victoria, how we manage 100 students effectively and efficiently and economically. So we've come up with, my colleague is in AR/VR. So we are planning to start up an AR/VR lab immediately. So when I get back there, we will be renovating one of the computer labs and converting it into an AR/VR lab. And So the top two focus areas are locked-in augmented reality to view BIM in 3D, AR, for training, for quality assurance. So those are our immediate focus areas. Items 3, 4, and 5 are still in gray because I'm still in discussions with my colleagues in the engineering school to see if we can get them to transition. So there is a very large robotics group. There is a large manufacturing group. And I want them to contribute to the construction program by moving some of the robotic skills, moving some of the advanced manufacturing skills into the construction program. So that's a plan, right? I will probably be able to give you a better update when things start moving. Now, given that we are an engineering school, the first 4 programs have already been accredited by Engineers Australia. The Masters of Construction and Engineering Management, we are hoping that we get accreditation from 2024 onwards. The problem with this is that Engineers Australia, as I've mentioned, focuses more on design and engineering. So when you ask a bunch of engineers to then accredit a course that is more trained towards a practical subject like construction management, they can't find a slot for us. They're like, where do we put you? Okay? So the immediate plan is to attain Engineers Australia accreditation. That gives us the credibility, but a possible scenario is for us to also seek Australian Institute of Building or Builders certification into the future. So let me sum up. This is the last slide. I will be quick. I will pass. So 5 distinct advantages of the program is that it provides our international students an understanding of the Australian construction and engineering industry practices. We build skills in project planning, development, and financing to successfully deliver on construction and engineering projects. So I always use the term construction and engineering. So it covers building works, it covers civil works, it covers infrastructure works. Because these are international students, we have to share with them how advanced engineering concepts, or not only the concepts, the technologies that they use, the design processes, the analysis and the management techniques that are in use in Australia. Some of these may be different from where they originally get their bachelor's degrees. And more importantly, it's a combination of technical and management skills. So that's the bit that we are trying to balance, that they come with some engineering skills, but we supplement that with a higher level technical skills plus management skills. So that's my introduction to La Trobe. Now, if you have questions, I can take questions about the university now before I talk about research interests. Questions? Student demographics are generally majority South Asian. And from South Asia, I would mean India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka. We have...
How about locals?
So you offer the classes in Hindi?
Gujarati. Now, when you saw the slide on employability, it is the success of the undergraduate program comes to bite us in the master's program. So because our students who complete the undergraduate program all get jobs, we have no locals coming into the masters. So what do we do? That's a strange thing, right? Because we have 95.6% of them getting jobs within 4 months. How can we convince them to come back for a master's? And the accreditation, they already have a fully accredited engineering degree. So we can't convince them to do another engineering degree. Yes, Goshan. Same problem.
I think you have clarified the question. You will not take the civil engineering cognitive one?
Non-cognate degrees will be on a case-by-case basis
Okay.
because that will impact our accreditation with Engineers Australia. Right? We have not thought about a 3-year master's, because if it is a 2-year master's, it has to be a cognate degree. Yes. If you go to a 3-year master's, then you can take from non-cognate degrees.
Any appetite to cover link construction as a subject
Of
in your
course.
program?
Of
You didn't see
course.
that in your curriculum?
Of course, but you have to understand that we are currently 2 staff members.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Any question from participant in online mode?
Yes. Can I, Pak Abdul?
Yes, Pak Sabto. Oh, no. Oh,
Pak Abdul.
Sorry, Suraji. Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
thank you, Pak Abdul. Good morning, everybody. Pak TK, it's quite interesting to me. You design a new program, construction and engineering management. I would like you to little bit express how you design the programs, and then you get the response from the students. 100 students for just 2 years. Is it based on supply driven, or is it based on demand driven? Could you explain to me? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Haji. It is demand-driven in the sense that when they explored the idea of a construction and engineering management program overseas, most of the engineering graduates from overseas need to learn something about Australia to be able to get a job in Australia. So I would like to sometimes describe Australian construction as unique in the sense that we have a particular way of construction that if you do not, or if you're not educated in Australia, you will find it very strange. So most of our residential buildings are built using timber. You may take a photograph and look at it. It's a brick building, but we call that a brick veneer. The brick is there for show. It is not a load-bearing wall. So the structure is timber. Now, in many engineering schools around the world, I did my civil engineering in Malaysia, and we never studied timber in that particular way. So there is no way I can design a timber building for the Australian market. There are various ways of using reinforced concrete that is unique to Australia. So if you have learned civil engineering design or reinforced concrete design, again, it's very strange when you see the concepts that they use in Australia. So it makes a lot of sense that if you are a foreign trained engineer, you do a little conversion program to familiarize yourself with the Australian market. And instead of doing a master's in civil engineering, a master's in construction then makes a lot more sense because it opens up a wider range of job opportunities. The construction market is a lot more buoyant compared to the engineering market. Right? So that again becomes a major selling point. Engineers with training in industrial, in mechanical, in robotics, even though we are still offering those subjects, their enrollments are either flat or declining very slightly. So this is again a symptom of the Australian economy. We are no longer efficient or competitive in terms of manufacturing. And because we are no longer a manufacturing country, the demand for engineers is also in decline. And all of us who are in construction realize that construction is not so easy to import or to export. So you have to do it locally. And therefore, the construction industry continues to remain to continue to demand workers into the sector. So the demand remains in construction, but not so much in the other engineering fields. So that probably explains why we decided to offer construction. And our enrollments are very, very high. At 100 a year, I think we exceed University of Melbourne for sure. I'm not sure how we compare to Deakin University. No? Nowhere close?
Thank you.
Okay. Another question from Sabto. Okay.
Thank you, Prof. Do. Okay, I want to ask to Dr. TK. I'm interested in the Lathrop University that you say they already convert the computer lab to VR AR lab. As we know, since construction management is quite technically, full technical, and we know that the VR and AR technology is whole different thing. Well, do you really have some kind of prerequisite courses to bridge the gap with the student, and does they require programming skills too? I think that's all my questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the question. Students who come in with a civil engineering degree, we assume that all of them know how to program. Correct?
Okay.
So that is why
not really in Indonesia.
that is why we say that we need them to come in with a cognitive degree. Now, if they come with a recognized Washington Accord degree, we are even able to give a 1-year advanced standing. So that could be very attractive for students who want to complete a 1-year master in engineering and construction and engineering management. But having said that, students coming in for a 1-year program would not qualify for Australian work rights. So there is a minimum requirement for 2 years of full-time university enrollment before they are eligible for a post-qualification work rights. Does that answer your question?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. TK.
You can continue with
Okay.
your research.
Can I-
interest. Oh, maybe. Oh, yes.
TK, what sort of engineering position that you are aiming your graduate will be working on in the construction industry?
Most of our students come in with maybe 2 years of engineering experience before doing the masters. So they are still very much at entry level in a construction company. So they can go in as contract admin, they can go in as project coordinators.
And after that,
After that, it's completely up to them. So
what, I mean, don't you have any expectation that after finishing up their degree, they
can go up cost
engineer or
project engineers, project managers, construction managers, up the path within the construction company, or if they prefer, they can go up within the project management side as well, client side or consulting project managers. What they cannot do is quantity surveying, because we do not offer quantity surveying as a major.
I have a general questions. Lathrop and Melbourne is a state university. Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of financing, how many budgets coming from government? How many from tuition fee? How many from the collaboration? And do you have also endowment fund? There are only four
sources of income. Correct.
Yeah, 4 sources of income. So my questions: do all the state university in Australia depend on the tuition fee or financing from students? That's the first question.
That's the first question. Okay.
Yeah. The second question: you do not have any hope on local students. Yeah, you mentioned. So your students is foreign students who like to work in Australia. So why don't you concentrate also foreign students want to work everywhere in the world. So you have more potential market. Yeah, okay, that question.
Okay, good, good. At La Trobe, we are still starting out. So our accreditation will be mainly for work in Australia. At the University of Melbourne, they have sought international accreditation. So the RICS, the CIOB, is meant for an international audience. So students from overseas can study at the University of Melbourne and continue to explore career opportunities overseas. So those international accreditations are meant for overseas. La Trobe is too small. We're just starting out. So we do not have plans yet to do all that. Coming back to the funding issue, the funding is complex. So Australian or domestic students are funded by the government for their university degrees. So we are still in competition to attract more local students because we get paid based on the number of local students we enroll. So there is the real cost of delivering a Bachelor of Civil Engineering degree. The students pay maybe $10,000. We collect from the government maybe another $10,000. That money is barely sufficient to run the university. The research funding model does not pay for university academics time or the university overheads. Research funding model only pays for consumables and contract staff. So if I hire a research assistant, yes, that will be covered by the research grant, but it doesn't cover my salary. It doesn't cover the use of space. It doesn't cover the finance overheads. So we actually lose money if we conduct research for the government. So how do you think we can make money? We can, of course, rely on an endowment fund. University of Melbourne, several years ago, started a large initiative to build up their endowment fund. It is very successful. La Trobe is also planning to do the same. But the endowment funds need a lot of effort to get money in, and we do not actually spend the endowment funds. You only spend the income from the endowment funds. The endowment funds, the money is supposed to be kept in perpetuity. So can you now understand why we need international students? Because international students fund the entire university's operations.
Regarding the population, yeah, Australia, which is limited, so you don't have local students. So how, even government guarantee that they provide money, then the number of students is very low. So how can you university survive?
We have Australian majority in the undergraduate program, as you have in Melbourne and in Deakin, correct? So the undergraduate program is largely domestic students. But the domestic students get jobs, and the opportunity cost for them to come back for a master's program is very high because they have to pay fees and lose out on the opportunity to earn an income. So that's the tricky part. And I think the situation is the same at almost all Australian universities for this type of programs. Okay. Gaushang mentioned that they have a 3-year program for non-cognate degrees. So if you have a Bachelor of Nursing, and if you choose to change from nursing to construction management, you spend 3 years. Now, if there are domestic students who are keen to do that, yes, you can do that. You pay 10,000 a year, government pays the other 20,000 for a master's program. But not many students. It will only be a handful of students who are trying to change from a Bachelor of Nursing to a Master's of Construction. But there is a pathway for someone who wants to do that at the University of Melbourne. Gaushang will teach you. Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, I will spend some time talking about research. Come on. Does it go?
Okay, thank you. So these are what the research themes that I'm talking about. My personal interest is in construction industry, economics, and development. And what I'll do is go through 4 projects that are worked on by my 3 PhD students at Melbourne, and also an industry development project with Pak Krishna, Pak Rizal, and staff members over here. I have also some interest in construction productivity. There is plenty of debate about whether the construction industry is productive. Obviously, that resulted from a McKinsey report, which I think is totally wrong. I will tell you why. And because I'm a civil structural engineer by training, I have a great interest in construction technology. So I've come up with some very basic figures to help us explain why different countries do different things. And if time permits, maybe on Saturday, I can invite my colleague to come and talk about digital construction, his AR, VR stuff over Zoom. My perspective, I got this from a textbook, Defining Construction in Developing Countries. This is a book that came out just a few months ago to basically tell you how those research topics are divided into 3 different categories. We can look at construction from a project perspective. You can look at construction from a company perspective or a contractor perspective, or you can look at the construction industry as a whole at the industry level. So my personal interest, having worked in construction for many years before becoming an academic, is that I'm interested at the industry level. I'm interested to find out why the construction sector works or doesn't work, why it's efficient in some countries, and perhaps try to understand how countries like Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia try to improve the performance of their respective construction sectors. And when you talk about productivity, you talk about efficiency, what exactly are we trying to improve, right? Are you trying to improve quality, or are you trying to build capacity with your construction managers? So those are the big questions. And that's basically my motivation for working or for proposing these research themes. Now in Australia, construction industry economics is more about how global trade has impacted construction in Australia. I have a PhD student who is looking at global trade in construction materials. So how do Australian construction firms create and optimize offshore supply networks for sustained competitive advantage? It's a very complex topic, so let me explain what is actually going on. Australia has always imported building materials from overseas. We are really good at producing food, but not much else. We dig up iron ore from the ground, sell it to China. Okay, so our original trade was with the motherland, UK, Europe, US initially. Then we traded a lot with Japan in the 1980s. When China joined the World Trade Organization, we started to trade with China, and China overtook Japan to be Australia's largest trading partner in 2007. Nearly all curtain wall, windows, glass, and joinery today are imported from Asia. And when I talk about Asia, I mean China. A large proportion of steel, ceramic tiles, stone, and other building materials come from overseas. The population of Australia is so small that there is very little demand within Australia for a manufacturer to succeed. All right. So these are some of the findings from my PhD student. Push and pull factors on the top row. We have production costs, very high production costs in Australia. We have increased competition, highly competitive domestic market. The clients become very price sensitive and forces the contractors to look for more efficient supply markets or supply chains. So they will, by themselves, naturally look to source for the cheapest materials that they can find. Servitization is where Australian companies start offering services instead of selling products. We have introduced a carbon tax back in 2012. It didn't last very long. And those are the factors that increase costs of doing business in Australia. The domestic manufacturing industry is in trouble. Many manufacturers have exited, and therefore we cannot find manufacturers of glass. We cannot find curtain wall manufacturers in Australia today. Some of the pull factors: you have better products overseas, you have more competitive prices overseas. Some of your suppliers are international firms. They themselves move overseas. So these are global push-pull factors. I don't have time to go through every one of them, but it sort of gives you an understanding of why Australian contractors buy from overseas. The PhD student then went on to look at different maturity models from a company that just goes to a supplier and buy materials that are imported to having the ability to transform their operations to include a global supply chain. So there are examples of a construction firm that buys up a manufacturing facility in China to support their Australian operations, right? We can talk about this on Saturday if there is interest to do that. Now, even if you buy from overseas, you can't gain or you can't have sustained competitive. If I can buy from China, there is nothing stopping Igor from buying the same product from China. So how do I try to constantly be one step ahead of him? Right? If I find a good supplier that asks very cheap, he can also go to China tomorrow and find the same supplier or find a better supplier. So that was what the PhD student was trying to work out. How do you gain sustained competitive advantage when your supply chain is not within your control? Now, to be fair, if I take a globalized approach or a free market approach to construction economics, it's only fair that I also look at it from a conservative perspective. So I have another student looking at economic nationalism. And this is a PhD student I share with Gaoshang. So he looks at how companies should react to more imports of construction materials. So he then looks at a policy within the state of Victoria which forces contractors to buy 90% of the inputs into a construction project from Australia or New Zealand. So this is what we term economic nationalism. Now, unfortunately, my colors don't quite work out, so you can't really read that, but I'll share my slides with you later on. And he's using an institutional theory approach to explain how and why these contractors behave the way they do. Now, one very interesting observation that he made was that even though the companies are Australian-owned firms, they will always look for the cheapest source of material. All right? Now, there is another funny thing that's going on. If the government doesn't check, they will quietly buy materials from overseas, put a made in Australia sticker on it, and sell it off as Australian product. And he's trying to explain why construction or contractors like to do all that or try to change the policies of economic nationalism. During COVID, we saw supply chains being disrupted. So obviously, I got another PhD student to look at how dependent is Australian contractors relying on Chinese manufacturers. Now, this can be, Gaoshang will say, why are you doing this? It's a sensitive topic, right? But look, we have to know how exposed we are, because the Australian government likes to pick fights with China, right? We always say the wrong things and then China decides to not trade with us. Now, can you imagine if they choose to not sell us construction materials?
the construction industry in Australia will grind to a halt. We will not have glass, we will not have curtain walls, and we do not know who else sells them. So we work out a metric called strategic dependence. And strategic dependence is defined as more than 50% of the imports come from a single source country. And Australia is a net importer of that commodity. We definitely need to import. The product is necessary in the construction industry, and the source country has greater than 30% market share. So if my favorite punching bag today is China. So if China has greater than 30% market share, we get into a trade. They don't supply us, our industry stops. All right, so we need to determine who we are dependent on. And some examples will be this, ceramics, furniture, glass, tables and kitchenware, some lamps. So I have a whole list of materials that we are strategically dependent on China. The next topic we worked on is industry development with ITB. So this is a collaborative research project. We wanted to understand why builders need to be registered. So there's a comparison between the state of Victoria, Singapore, Malaysia, and we then compared that with the registration system here in Indonesia. Right? So these are the regulations regarding registration of builders in Victoria, so that the builders need to have a degree in construction management or an advanced diploma in construction management. They have to have at least 3 years of experience and have worked on projects of different heights. So that gives them a builder qualification, a builder registration with the Victorian Building Authority. We have data for Singapore. We have financial and tender limits for Singapore. We then looked at Malaysia, which is very similar in terms of the requirements. So they will need a qualification, they will need experience before they can be registered as builders. There are always tender limits, how much they can tender for in terms of project size and annual revenues. Now, when we start to compare, we can then see very clear differences of scope of registration, whether it's an individual or a company that you register, who is the registrar, as in which government agency controls the registration, who assesses, what are the requirements, and whether they apply to all public and or private projects. So these are some of our findings which we can talk about on Saturday if there are interest. All right. So the comparisons, what are common practices among all the 4 countries that we looked at, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages. Now, the next theme that I want to talk about is construction productivity. Now, I don't think I have enough time to cover all this. Just very quickly show you the McKinsey report. Is there evidence of declining productivity? You have to understand how productivity is measured. And one very good example I always offer when we talk about the economic definition of productivity is this. All of you realize that productivity, construction productivity is a measure of value add per worker. Now, if it is value add per worker, I always challenge my audience. If I double the wages of a construction worker today, what is its impact on construction productivity? Yes. But in terms of output, there's no productivity output. Or productivity increases in terms of per square meter. So the measure is wrong. Right? If I just double, I just decide to pay him or her double, there is no productivity increase in terms of physical output, but there is an economic increase in construction productivity. So that
Ah. Yes. Well, you can, it's a hypothetical case, yes, but let's assume that the unions are powerful enough to demand a 5% increase in wages. That would correspond to about a 3% increase in productivity. In economic productivity, because the value add per worker has gone up. But the physical productivity hasn't changed. So there is an issue with definition by the economists and in national statistics. So that's what I'm trying to say. There are, of course, other issues, such as the shift of construction activities from the site to the factory. So all the tasks that are easily automated have already been automated. All the difficult tasks of screwing in the door or hanging the door still has to be done by hand. And that remains on site. And that cannot be made more productive. So all the activities that can be made more productive has been made more productive. And unfortunately, all those activities are now captured under manufacturing. So construction remains unproductive. And we keep scratching our heads how to make it more productive. It's a bottleneck, yes, yes. Is there evidence of declining productivity? I've taken this from Building and Construction Authorities. On a per square meter basis, productivity is increasing. Okay, so challenges in the estimation of productivity, the boundaries of production, labor hire arrangements, capital intensity, leasing of equipment, and all those issues makes it really, really hard to understand or to define productivity. So can we define better measures at each stage of the construction? We now have modern methods of construction. So if you prefabricate an entire bathroom, that's done in a factory. So we have to keep track of those sort of productivities. When you start importing materials, so if you import a curtain wall made in Shenzhen, fully assembled, all you have to do is hang it on a building site in Melbourne. How does that impact productivity? So if you ask the builder today, the builder will say, yes, it's very efficient because all we have to do is send it to China, send the drawings there, they manufacture, we wait for it to be shipped over, we hang. And yet you claim that the construction industry in Australia is not productive. It is very, very efficient. Right? Gaoshang, you agree, right? It's already very efficient. You just hang. Oh, of course, there's supply chain risk, but let's not talk about that. So can we define better measures? That's what we need to do. DFMA for plumbing and flat pack walls. This is a project that we worked on several years ago before COVID. There was a manufacturer of, there was a plumber that wanted to put plumbing together with wall and fully manufacture that in his factory. So that was the drawing, and the picture on the right is the actual flat pack wall. So using IKEA's production system of IKEA's concepts into wall and plumbing. So these are the processes. Bang, bang, bang. They even think about maybe tiling the wall and then erecting it very, very quickly. There was a prototype that was installed at 170 Swanston Street. If you want to watch the videos, the 4 videos are here. These are all private videos, so please don't share them anywhere else. Some of the findings and conclusions. So in situ wall would take 139 minutes. The prefab wall would save, what, 35 to 65% of the time. And then if we use DFMA tools to optimize that, it would save a bit more time as well. Yes? There's no productivity. These are all just time. That's time. Yes. Well, but I don't think it's fair to exclude manufacturing. No, but that's why I have it in those colors, you see. So in situ, the whole blue part is in construction. But when we start doing prefab, the green part goes into manufacturing. Has gone to manufacturing, yes. So in this particular slide, I'm just showing you that I am not measuring only construction productivity. I want to show that it's gone to manufacturing, it's gone to the factory. So the optimum one, 31 minutes is in factory. Assembly is only 20 minutes on site, plus the 9 minutes install. I want to be fully transparent in where the data is, or the productivity data is, right? Because the construction industry is measuring it wrongly. We only measure the blue and the yellow. Anything that moves to manufacturing, we don't measure, or we forget to measure. So of course, that accusation that we are not productive, always there. How do we explain different technologies used in different countries? So I've shown you these slides previously. Different costs of building materials. I try to explain that using a cost approach, labor cost approach. So when you look at skilled workers' wages versus country, then I came up with this. So in Australia, in Indonesia, let's just do Australia, Indonesia. 1 cubic meter of concrete is worth 2.3 hours of a worker's wage in Australia, but 40 hours of a worker's wage in Indonesia. So this was maybe 2018 data. That helps us understand what sort of technology would work in Australia versus Indonesia. Now, this is a bit more interesting. Australia is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th bar from the left is Australia. This is the cost to produce a 200 mm thick reinforced concrete slab. Those of you who are trained in QS will realize that for Australia, 25% of the cost is concrete, 25% of the cost is steel, 50% of in the formwork, the labor to erect and dismantle the formwork. So that cost is very high in Australia. Now, if you look at Indonesia, which is, now where is Indonesia? Quite far to the right-hand side, right? So maybe about 7 or 8 on the right-hand side. Your labor cost is so low, your formwork cost is very small. You are definitely more productive. Well, depends on how you define productivity. Now, if you were asked to evaluate a permanent formwork system, you will never choose a permanent formwork system because your formwork cost is very small. Our formwork cost is so high that if we can find a permanent formwork system, we will use it. No. In this particular case, it's conventional formwork. So that's why it's so labor intensive. You have to install, and after the concrete has gained sufficient strength, you have to dismantle. Okay, so this is the evolution of technology choice. So what I have on the right-hand side is reinforced concrete in white, reinforced concrete with metal form, and then you can see that over time, when a new technology is introduced, it may be more expensive. So if you look at the year 1985, reinforced concrete and metal form was more expensive than reinforced concrete alone. But over time, when our labor cost increases faster than material costs, metal formwork becomes cheaper. So if there's interest in Indonesia to figure out where the trigger points are, at what material to labor cost ratios, different technology makes sense. And that will help your industry in deciding, do you invest in precast? Do you invest in metal form? Do you invest in modular construction or modular formwork? So these are some of the tools that I use. And I think I have come to the end of my presentation. So in summary, yes, I have a broad range of interests from micro to macro scale. Some of the contemporary issues of global trade, macroeconomic impact on firms in the industry, and sovereign capabilities, for example, import of materials.
My primary focus is firm and industry. We have looked at theories of competitive advantage, economic choice, productivity, DFMA, and institutional theory. The end. Questions?
Okay, 5 minutes play. Okay, thank you, TK. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's another speaker. Yeah.
Igor.
If you have a question, I think it's better to write down in the chat. Yeah. And I think
Saturday, yes.
yeah, we will discuss more on Saturday. Yeah. So I think right now Igor will present. Will you standing here? Stand here. Okay. Somebody will help you. Yeah. Ada?
Is there a click of
Okay.
the slides?
That's why. Yeah. Directly to the computer ya. Ada yang bisa bantu? Ada. Oke. Okay. You just say next and then she will do that. Ya. Okay. Okay.
Hello. Assalamualaikum. My name's Igor and I'm with Deakin University. Am I really going to say next? Okay, next. Topic to talk about, and someone suggested I should talk a little bit about the history of the research in this particular field. And I wanted to focus a little bit more on international construction. And then last night someone said you also need to talk a little bit about Deakin, and everybody's been advertising their university. And I think Deakin is the university that nobody knows. So I'm going to talk about Deakin and set the record straight. But here are the things that and your naps.
Kayak gini juga datanya kosong semua. Itu biarin dulu kosong dulu.
So these are the issues that I'll be looking at. I'll just introduce Deakin University briefly. I'll talk about the field of construction management, and I want to compress the topic to international construction management as a focus, define what that is, and perhaps why that's important for Indonesia. And then I'll talk about the research. I've done some detective work, some forensic investigation on the state of research in international construction management. So I'll talk about the scope of research, the journals that are being used, the key researchers in the field from around the world, because we're looking at collaboration and why that matters, some centers of research, and then the opportunity for ITB, and some research focused by countries. So that'll be the list of areas. It's a potpourri, it's a mix of things. Every time I look at the slides, I wonder why I put them in that order, right? So that's why I need to go backwards and forwards. And I invite you to ask questions along the way, because I probably will forget what I've said when we get to the end. So let me just start with Deakin University. If I do this, that means change the slide, okay? So some people think, that some people will claim the university is the second oldest in Australia or the third oldest in Victoria, all these sorts of claims. But the important thing to note is that Deakin is the first university to offer architecture and construction in the whole of Australia. So you didn't know that. And the reason for that is that we actually set up, or there was school teaching construction management before there was any university in Australia, and this was absorbed into Deakin. Some other statistics: world-class facilities, strong collaboration with industry, the highest student satisfaction rating of all Australian universities, highest employment outcomes. Everybody claims high employment. We are the highest. We're also the most profitable university. We have the largest campus in Australia. We're on 4 sites, and the land area is the biggest. We have forests and rivers and snakes and all sorts of things down at Warm Ponds. I don't know if this is a good recommendation, but we also have the highest pass rates in our construction management course. So maybe our standards are a little different from more prestigious universities, but we also have the highest pass rates. Okay. So just to give you some background, did I put my finger up? Anyway, that. Okay. Thank you. Where do I point? Okay. So, just some classrooms. Everybody has a lot of classrooms. These are what the architects and the construction people do. I should mention that we also have the largest number of students in construction management in Australia. In fact, I have units that I teach with over 500 students in 1 unit. And we were the first. Sorry, I have to do this. We were the first to do the double degree of architecture and construction. So we're in the same faculty. I should say, whereas Melbourne University is a faculty on its own, we are within the Faculty of Science and Engineering. Science and engineering. So we are closely aligned with the engineers, even though we have a very strong architectural bent. And in terms of collaboration, I will tell you a secret that tomorrow I don't feel like I'm cheating on you, but I'm going down to the architecture school because from next year, Deakin will be offering a joint program in sustainable circular cities with the School of Architecture here. So we are very involved in the issue of sustainability. We're very keen on that, and we've made that a research priority. In fact, when we talk about research focus, it's one of the key ones that drives the criteria for accepting PhD students. A final thing I would suggest is that we also invite scholars to come down. I've had a series of scholars, mostly from China, that come and sit next to me, stay in Australia for a year, and we do some joint research. So I invite you to come and enjoy Deakin. And that's a view from my office. And you can confirm that, right? So if you, so now you know all about Deakin. I don't think Melbourne University has that. I'm conflicted because I'm a graduate from Melbourne University. So of course Melbourne University is number one. And I did my undergraduate degree at Melbourne University. I did my PhD degree at Melbourne University. And I suppose I should tell you a little bit about myself. I started in architecture, which was a 5-year degree back then. And then I spent quite a bit of time doing other studies. I have a Master of International Relations on Political Economy. I have an MBA and a PhD in Construction Management. And that series of educational pathways is why I have a particular interest in the strategy and management of construction companies. So I spent 10 years working in Japan. I spent a lot of time in industry. I spent a number of years in the Middle East. I've worked in China on and off, including setting up offshoring so that Australian industry would become very fragile and high risk. So that's Deakin, and that's me. Okay, so let me start off with a slide that makes you think this is going to be boring. When we talk about research, often, or when we bring students into our school and we begin the whole effort of construction management, we talk about the conflicting goals of time, cost, quality, and so on. And a lot of our education and subsequently research at a very fundamental level deals with solving these problems. We all know that. From an industry point of view, I'm going to try and give you some background that we're all familiar with so that I can move on to talk about why the research focus has been as it is around the world. From an industry point of view, we talk about construction management, but you know that it's slightly different across different sectors. There's the management side, the engineering side, but when it comes to sectors, actually, we can have a different focus. And transportation, for example, a high-speed train between, let's say Jakarta and Bandung, becomes a very important issue, right? So people will specialize, construction firms will specialize. And just again, background that you're all familiar with, international construction, which is what I'm talking about, is dominated by a very few number of significant players. If we look at the global ranking, the data's a little bit old, but it hasn't changed very much. We see Spain, Germany, France, China coming in, of course, and others, India also creeping in, looking at different sectors of the industry, right? So, for example, ACS is #1 in terms of buildings as well as in water, and #2 in transportation and telecommunications. India is creeping in at #8 in terms of power. So another way of looking at it is revenue. Revenue doesn't mean profit, but in terms of how much money they're generating through international programs, you can see ACS again is very dominant in Latin America because they're Spanish. They have that Spanish connection. Where's our friend China? In Asia, and of course in Africa, trying to recolonize Africa. We see India moving towards the Middle East, their near neighbor, and countries like the USA, also somewhere in Latin America because it's the southern partner. But if you just look at that, you can see where different countries have been trying to focus their energies and efforts. Yeah. So just digest that a little bit. France, the strongest in Europe. So what's actually happening in this scenario? In terms of, as TK just mentioned, supplying from overseas, in terms of technology, there's similarly an international transfer. And we have, in a very simplified form, 3 hubs in the world: a European hub, North American hub, and an Asian hub, where the technologies are generated, the expertise is generated, the management skills are generated, and then from those, so there's interactions between these 3 in terms of shifting material and knowledge around, and then these 3 centers become conduits into their subsidiary domains. So from North America, we see it moving down to Latin America. Yeah? America, the USA is active in Latin America. Europe, active in Africa and the Middle East. And of course, Asia down into Australia, Oceania, Southeast Asia, right? Again, in terms of this technology transfer, we can think about it in terms of countries that are developed and developing, and we can think about the providers and the destination. So developed countries provide infrastructure and technology to themselves. But the other vector is towards the developing nations. So these are the 2 vectors, right? So it's the developed countries that own the proprietary coalface frontiers of knowledge and technology, serving themselves and serving the developed world. As far as developing countries offering anything to developed countries, pretty much zero, and to themselves, maybe perhaps a small smattering. So these are, I think, interesting developments. We know the story of the debt trap diplomacy. Again, China is a favorite topic. We see China as an example of what's called the Angola model. Here's an example of how this operates. They say to a country, look, you need a port, you need a high-speed train system. We can provide that for you, or we can build the cobalt mine in the Congo, and when we build that mine, you'll need a railway to carry all the product out to the ports, and we can build the port as well. So we'll build a mine, we'll build the railway line, we'll build the port, and we'll also provide you the loans. And once we've provided you the loans, when you default, I mean, if you default, well, when you default, then we will capture that resource, and then will belong to us. And so this is the so-called debt trap diplomacy that Sri Lanka has experienced and other countries have experienced. So why internationalization of construction is important is because it becomes very impactful on national development, economic development, and politics. It's not possible anymore to separate these and just think of a project as a project. We've heard how we can become vulnerable in terms of supply chain, but the problem goes much deeper. I'll give you some basic statistics. I'll compare a couple of countries, and you can I just want you to appreciate shifting trends. So what we see here is China over time, the number of firms slowly increasing, as well as revenue rising. I should add, but profitability falling. If we compare that to the US's presence globally, we see the number of firms generally falling, as well as revenues generally falling. There are quite a sequence of players and a shifting dynamic as to who's controlling what's going on in terms of global construction. The UK's presence, we see so this is interesting because the number of firms has remained very low, but the way they operate is like their colonial approach to things, a very small number of experts in the Foreign Office looking for ways to generate very large revenues. So these all have different strategic approaches. I'll show you one more, if I can. Turkey. Now, is Turkey a surprise? If you look at the data, Turkey is quietly rising and has become a significant player on the international stage. I believe it has the largest army in Europe now, or in the EU. Well, I'll get back to Turkey, but you'll see the number of players internationally up to 44 and rising revenues. Any questions? No questions. Good. TK and I have discussed this quite a bit. If we're looking to understand innovations and how to generate a competitive advantage in a company, there's this Porter's value chain model. Things mysteriously go in here, and then this is the company. The company does its magic, and things mysteriously pop out the other end. And the cost of what went in here, we hope, we expect, is the case if companies are surviving, is less than the value to the market of what comes out. And the question is, where in the process does a company actually inject the greatest increase in value? So if we look to improve the efficiencies of companies, we need to understand where that competitive edge arises. So as TK also mentioned, if we're all buying the same glass from the same Chinese firm, clearly our competitive advantage isn't from sourcing or maybe logistics. There must be something else that's going on. So this is a challenge in terms of research to discover where we can improve the efficiency of firms. In my own research, again, TK knows this very well, when a company goes offshore, there's a risk. And in fact, one needs to ask, why would you bother? So an Indonesian firm working in Indonesia, why would it come to Australia? Presumably, there's some advantage for the firm. But more clearly, perhaps, or immediately, one would expect managing operations offshore in a different environment with different difficulties in terms of sourcing under different legal regimes with different staffing and all that sort of thing, practices. There are a lot of risks, and it's likely that they won't succeed because the challenges are very large. But as we saw at the beginning, there are a large number of companies operating globally, doing very well with large revenues. So the trick then is that when you take your firm offshore, you have to keep the things that generate competitive advantage and adjust those things that become a liability in an overseas environment. There are at least 5 generic areas of adjustment. So again, TK talked about skills, yeah? So it takes workers in Australia have a different level of skill, a different level of remuneration expectation. And so you couldn't organize an Indonesian firm in Australia on the basis of labor input in creating formwork or making concrete slabs. You'd have to change. So what would it be that an organization brings to generate that competitive advantage? So clearly, clients, you might follow clients overseas. Chinese firms follow Chinese clients, send out their companies, then the contractors follow them to deliver on behalf of those clients. But you could also look for locals. Similarly, human resources, your engineers from the home country, or do you recruit locals? We know that there are great implications. Sourcing factor inputs. Do you bring your supply line from home base, or do you start to source locally? Similarly, the value chain in which you operate, do you move into different segments? Do you move into water, waste management, transportation, energy? Which segments do you focus in? And finally, what is your approach to develop new technologies? Are you looking to continue to develop them from your home base, or are you using the offshore destination as an opportunity to cultivate new technologies that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do simply working from a home operation? All very complicated, but the competitive advantage arises from the right combination of a little bit of this, different levels of localization across all of those. That's a topic in itself. Okay, so just to give you an example, if we talk about procurement, value chain, there are different approaches. Some construction firms think of procurement as their competitive advantage. Hochtief was one of these organizations, a construction firm, I guess you're familiar with Hochtief, that has decided to actually set up particular procurement locations all around the world so that in employing Hochtief to build with projects on your behalf, different countries, they can easily, or that's their ambition, easily supply from anywhere in the world any range of resources that are needed. Other firms, as we've talked about, like Australian firms, don't deal with that, but it can become a competitive advantage on its own. It can become a niche. It become an opportunity for technology transfer or a way of leveraging the firm globally. I don't want to talk about this, I guess, because we're all hungry, but or tired, or both. But let me give you an example of this. So just trying to think of an example. Baker Hughes was trying to deliver proprietary equipment and technology for offshore oil drilling to the Chinese government. The problem is that the Chinese like to steal technology and reverse engineer it. And so their approach was to say, well, if we continue to produce in the US, the costs are quite high. If we produce in China, the costs are low, but we'll lose the technology. So they chose to source from Singapore because they trust those Chinese, and the cost was somewhere in the middle. I'm not saying if that was effective, I'm just saying that was the strategy. So their approach was very much to defend against reverse engineering. Others, Westinghouse and those who build nuclear power plants, they, there are a couple of German firms that produce things like mechanical air conditioning, heating, elevators, and their approach has been, look, if we operate in China, we know the technology will be reverse engineered, but on the basis of the fact that we have that client and that market and that business, we will be able to generate next generational technologies so that as the Chinese catch up, we will remain ahead. And so they don't worry about it. They have confidence that they can stay ahead. Westinghouse build nuclear reactors, but in large parts of the world now, no one wants nuclear reactors. Eventually, people might think again about this. But in the United States, they stopped making them. So China wanted them. And actually, the technology then becomes the product. They sell the technology, and from the basis of those sales, develop next generational technologies. So there are different approaches to procurement. Don't let them copy you all the way through. We sell it to you. And these are construction companies. So I don't want to linger on this too much, but if we talk about supply chains and we talk about value chains, let's say we've got a construction firm operating there within the sector. If they're the cheapest, if what they do is cheaper than all the others, will companies buy from this value chain? Will clients buy a building product from this value chain if they're the cheapest? But if this is more expensive and this is more expensive and this is more expensive and this is more expensive, being the cheapest doesn't deliver the cheapest product for the client. So it's not, the client doesn't buy the cheapest product within the value chain. The client looks for the cheapest value chain. So being the best at this in a sequence that is low in efficiency is a disadvantage. There are a couple of approaches to this. You can go downstream or upstream and capture more of the value chain and look to improve its efficiency through synergies and so on, or to simply bind yourself across a couple of value chains. Again, this is a topic in itself. But all of this is necessary in terms of construction success, construction management firm success, and why we need to think of things as a global scale. In my own work, again, TK knows this, there are different approaches to how you deal with firms. There are firms that just sit at home and look around the world and they say, well, we are the expert in hospital PPPs, VAMID. We are the experts in the world in hospital PPPs. If you want the best kind of hospital that can be produced, global standard, come to us. And they'll send their engineers at great expense and will be building the PPP project without any substantive long-term presence in the country where their project is being delivered. And as soon as the project is finished, they disappear. Very high costs, very low risk, and a very limited clientele because no one really wants to afford the premium price that would be paid. All the way down, I mean, other construction firms might not have a strategic plan to be international, but they may find that their local clients are now building a factory overseas or building a development overseas, and because they have been doing it for them in their home base, they may say, look, you guys, why don't you come across and do this project for us in Malaysia, because you've been doing it for us in Indonesia, and so on. We could go all the way down to, let's say, Japanese firms that had, or even Singaporean firms that have been saturating their own markets to the extent that they now no longer have business at home. And in order to continue to sustain their expertise and find volume, they have to go overseas, right? So they just shift. You can think of a Japanese manufacturing that went out of Japan because it was too costly, cars and electronics and all sorts of things, to China and now Vietnam, Singapore, and so on. LG, a number of Korean firms have actually changed their name and moved into China or into other markets and become wholly localized by even employing locals as their managers and just shifting their brand and shifting their product simply to service their operations in those new countries. And the only thing that's repatriated back to their home base is financial profits. Nothing else comes from the original source. Again, another topic that can be discussed at length. For construction firms thinking into the future, there are all these research organizations or consultancies. We have great respect for McKinsey, some of us. What we need to consider is, what kind of future do we have? And there are in industry generally 10 or so key trends that we need to look for in the future that will determine the shape of our industry. For construction, I suggest 3. Firstly, the geopolitical context. Are we looking at polarization between China and America, Russia, or whatever it is? Or will we see a convergence to one unifying dominant power? So for a long time, America was fairly preeminent. Now it seems to be fracturing, and we're looking at a much more multipolar world. In a multipolar world, things like international law and order, those institutions and regimes will be undermined. So the law of the sea, claiming the South China Sea islands and all that sort of thing under a unipolar world would be settled. But when countries start to question the legitimacy of the United Nations and the international rule of law, then we're looking at a much more fragmented situation. Similarly with technology, is it an incremental development of technology, or will there be a fundamental shift? So we were discussing, how do you introduce new technologies into Indonesian construction firms? So are we looking for an incremental shift, or are we going to just shock the system? What are the forces that are likely to create that? Disruptive technology or just changing over time? And the other one is climate change, because now we're all talking about the new religion, sustainability, and we're all converted to sustainability. Otherwise, we are infidels. No one can deny it, right? Does anyone want to know? I wouldn't even ask the question. So we all believe in it. And the question then is, are we managing it slowly, Or is the climate change going to be so rapid that, I don't know, a capital city is going to sink into the ocean, and we have to start thinking about very drastic responses. So before we can think about not only what our competitive advantage is going to look like now, but into the future, we have to have a guess or find an answer to the factors that will influence us so that we can look to where we should be shaping our energies in terms of adapting. Okay. So much for my introduction. Let me talk about research, right? If we look at, I don't know, Web of Science, and we look at construction management research, we're all familiar with this sort of thing, where we say, well, that particular research paper is what? An economics focused? Someone might be interested in economics. Is it to do with environmental sciences, green sustainability? Is it a business thing? Is it civil engineering, or is it building technology? So we don't see construction management. There's no such thing as construction management. It's actually passed into a range of sub domains. And if we think of it in another way, this is the standard view of what the domains within building research are: structural engineering, materials and technology, physical performance, geotechnology, and construction management. But all of this is pretty much engineering. Whereas perhaps project management, that first slide, quality, time, cost, there we are, that small little world where we are safe and happy. And then there's management research, looking at economics, company management, public management. So these, again, are particular areas that are of interest. If we look about international construction management, I would suggest it's a pretty precise, narrow area. And I'll show you actually that the whole of construction management is a very new discipline as compared to even psychology, not to mention mathematics. So construction engineering, project management, so the engineering side, the project side, and then business. There is a whole realm of theory and knowledge on international business, but we need to focus on this domain. That's my message, given the situation that I have attempted to very briefly describe. What do I mean by international management or international construction management? We pick a topic for me: scheduling, flat packing, lean construction. But it's always done within the context. Okay, dam construction in Spain is different from dam construction in Iran. As we know, the circumstances that one meets in Indonesia will be different. But if we then look to extrapolate or expand the findings here to a more global context or an international context, we then begin to build a theory, which is what this particular discipline, I believe, is lacking. Very much the contextualization doesn't find itself being applied or applicable in a more global context. So we see researchers saying, oh, well, someone's done some research about dam procurement in Spain. They repeat the research in Iran, and then someone says, oh, let's do one for Indonesia. All right. Because I'm talking about research and because you started the fight, I want to talk about rankings. I'll talk about rankings. If we look at rankings, okay, don't get upset, but the various world university rankings differ in what they measure. And please notice, we all think that world rankings measure things like research output, but they also measure things like academic peer review, student-faculty ratios, in which case La Trobe is #1 in the world, employment outcomes, equity and diversity, right? So you can choose whatever value you like, and then you can find a ranking system that will place you in the top 10. You just keep looking. Now, what I find interesting is that engineering, right? We've seen how dominant engineering is. So construction management's often considered within engineering. And so when we look at rankings, we can say, well, here's a university. It's great at medicine and law, so it's high in the world. Forgive me. Others, perhaps their faculties less so. Then construction management within that, but international construction management, there are no metrics. Pause. But I'm going to give you some. And that's the opportunity for ITB. So let's have a look at some metrics for international construction management research. You will see the number of publications in this column here, or maybe you can't. I'll get some out, and citations. And there are only 13 countries with 44 institutions that have a continuous track record of research publication in this area. I will show you that there are other institutions that by mistake or because they've got some weird researcher that joined the faculty will publish in that realm. But these are the only institutions that consistently focus on this issue. China, number 1 with 10 institutions. Hong Kong, because we have to now say that's part of China, is very dominant there. You can see citations of Hong Kong Poly U, 1,108. There's some metrics down the side of H indices. But I want you to notice that Australia in international construction ranks very highly. Our best friends at the University of Melbourne are there. And the university that you never heard of until today, Deakin University, is there. The other interesting one is Turkey, which I also pointed out. And then we come down to South Korea, the USA, the UK, Singapore, Malaysia, and a smattering of others. It's very localized to a very few number of institutions. Now, that's a very important opportunity because as we look for our collaboration, we have where's Malaysia? We have Singapore and we have Australia represented in the room. And we have Indonesia, I think, represented in the room. So my message to y'all is we're going to stick BIT in there. Any questions about this? Can you see what's happening here? Once more, the really interesting one, which is a conversation over lunch, is Turkey. This particular institute, Middle East Technical University, is quietly in the background producing some major research in this area. We can see that the US, where are the US? Yeah, there's the odd Stanford and others that have quite high citations per paper, but in terms of emphasis and volume, it's not there. And we saw that the trend of US construction firm presence in the international arena is slipping. China has risen, it's stabilizing. Turkey is increasing. Yes. Yeah. 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 Happy to look at that and put it into the next set of slides. So all of this is very general, and I'm not lingering on it to substantiate it. I'm just kicking the can to see what comes out. And I want you to be provoked by, oh, no, that can't be right, or you know, what is really going on. I'll look at some other statistics, but I'm suggesting to you, one, let's just refresh. It's international construction as a research area is unavoidable because local concerns about quality, cost, time, all that stuff no longer can be conducted within a vacuum or within a firm or within a project. It becomes dependent on international forces and also the disruptive forces of technology, sustainability, politics, right? Oh, did I just, sorry, folks. So I'll just go through some of the metrics. Research journals. What's your favorite research journal? So just some background, which we all know and love. So yes, Q1 journals. Who produces them? Journal of Civil Engineering and Management, Vilnius Technology in Lithuania. We can see their SkyMargo scores. We can see their H index. We can see their impact factors. Habitat International, Elsevier, Dutch firm, Taylor and Francis, Building Research Information. We all try hard, at least for international researchers, to publish in these journals. And we get rejected because now everybody is trying to publish. All the enthusiastic people, as Gaushan has pointed out, unless you've got a friend who's an editor or on one of these papers, you probably be rejected. But it's a very small range of journals, none of which are primarily focused on the globalized concerns that international contractors face or will begin to face or are starting to face. So if we look at engineering, construction, architectural management, we know these metrics, right? I don't need to linger. They're all struggling over time to move into Q1, and eventually they do if they're there for long enough. And if we do a research search on key terms, we will see, I mean, if you just have a look at that, what's your impression of the key terms that come up? There's 4 clusters, yes. Yeah. Well, we see the international comes up, international joint ventures, international. But we also, I think, if you're cynical like me, wonder whether this is mostly done by students who don't really understand things. It's like hypothesis, complexity, effectiveness, knowledge, project performance, factor analysis, yawn, you know, practical implications, and then issues like, you know, profitability, Chinese contractors. It's superficial. I don't think it addresses, these key terms don't address the challenges that the industry really faces. Another opportunity for us to focus a little more, because they're producing papers without a purpose towards establish, like they don't build on each other. Researchers may not be prone to build on their research towards a ultimate theory of international construction management. I list to you, and this is going to be very controversial and open for refutation, but we started in 1991, and we see, as far as I can tell, very subjective, the pivotal research points that then continue to shape and influence subsequent research, basically copycat research. The first one was marketing in global construction. I think this is Flanagan, Roger Flanagan. And then Chinese international construction appears 1997 as China starts to open up and want to have a very strong international presence. Future of construction management comes in. Market decision of Turkish firms. Korean profit, performance, and cash flow in international arena. knowledge transfer, Malaysian constructions in the Gulf. That was a very highly replicated journal about paper about how other firms are operating that area. Localization, law, safety, procurement, waste, political risks has become fashionable, embodied energy, Indonesian motivations for moving offshore. I guess some of you have read that one. Indian firms. Now we've seen the rise of Indian firms. I showed you that statistic. Drivers of Chinese JVs, BIM, global construction strategies, and then I'd end up with sustainability. And we know the research citations. So we have the few dominant ones that all talk to each other. But I just want you to notice the emergence of Journal of Cleaner Construction, Civil Engineering, Sustainability as those predatory journals, now capturing a large increasing market share of publications. If we look at the journals, we can see which ones are producing more. I need to hurry, right, because we all want to eat. In international construction, you can see the key ones, but you can see a range of them. So this is, I could talk about this for a long time, but this can help you when you're looking for a home for your paper. Now, what this one shows is that the shift in journals is moving towards these ones with the more yellow color. So sustainability, cleaner production, open access journals, you need the money to fund it from the traditional point of view. So traditional journals are slowly being challenged by more, I don't know, market-oriented publication outlets. Okay, so theory. As little as 14% of CM research uses theory. Breathe in and take that on board. When I'm in a bad mood and a student comes to me and wants to talk to me about construction management research, I point to them and say, what's your favorite theory? So how familiar are you with these? Actor network theory, institutional theory, innovation diffusion theory. These theories are applied in management research or social research and are applicable in construction management research, particularly in an international dimension. They're not really utilized in research. It's basically interviews, questionnaire surveys, and then statistical analysis of what's your favorite color. Here's another range. Can you imagine just a couple of papers out of all of those actually utilize theory? I think these are opportunities for us to more maturely think about taking a responsible and substantive stance on where the direction of construction management research should go, particularly in terms of developing the next generation of managers that will be forced to consider some very dynamic international trends that won't allow them to simply focus at the project or firm level. The journals often have overlapping content or themes that they're interested in. If you look at this, you'll notice Habitat International has no overlapping content on any of the other journals. And you'll notice that the two wolves that are creeping into the system, Journal of Cleaner Production and Sustainability, compete against each other, but have almost no overlap with the other journals. Again, we could talk about that, but I just want to keep going. Who are the researchers? Who are the champions in this area? So if we look more broadly, we can see a whole range of people. I can talk about them. What I want to point out is very clustered and very siloed. So it's a few people continuing to produce with the same few people, very little overlap. And if we distill it down to people with consistent research output, it's much smaller, much smaller. you will be familiar with some of those names. Yeah. Here's our Turkish friend and Albert Chan and so on, right? We all know those people, but you'll notice that their circle of collaboration is perhaps just, as you said, just producing papers for the sake of it. So this needs to be looked at to try to consolidate what these findings are in terms of theory. I'll just keep going. All I want to say here is then we talked about feeder streams. How do you get into construction management? You can get into construction management through nursing, right? But very few come from management. So construction, what's the word? Management, almost none from the business schools come in. That's what you think of that. That seems to be an opportunity, or at least something to reflect on, because it's the management theory that I believe this particular research domain. Now, there are a couple of very fashionable people. Krishnas, I don't know if you know this guy, have produced works that begin to address these issues, but they're very few. All right, who's doing the research? Again, I'll do this very quickly. Come on, China. If we look more widely, we see that it does spread out around the world, but it's China, again, the USA, England, Australia, and if we look at consistency, there's a very dominant stream. Australia has a strong connection with China because we depend on them for everything. But it's a very limited field. Come on. Yeah. All right. If we talk about research clusters, who's doing work with whom? It is like a map of the universe. There's the Middle East cluster, quite small. There are independent centers of research. And then there's this big population of clusters centered on Asia. So if we look at cluster 2, we know these Middle Eastern Turkish-based centers, so they are operating quietly on their own. And then we look at Asia, which is the absolute epicentrum we saw that word, we learned a new word, of research. So Tsinghua University, University of Melbourne, that's Victor Chen, Hong Kong University. Over there, we've got Korean universities. University of Singapore has collaborations with Queensland University, Stanford University. You can see these networks. To give you an example, right? These guys work together and contribute. Yeah, yes. So, but these are the dynamics. I'm not suggesting it's the right way to do it. You'll notice up and coming Ghana, Spain. This slide shows the freshness of work. So South Africa, Singapore, the USA. This was a center of research some years ago. Switzerland, Japan, India have contributed more recently. And then new emergence, Ghana, I think Nigeria is up and coming, and so on. So we can see, I'm just suggesting to you that it's not a static thing. It's quite dynamic. And there's huge opportunity to create quite a bit of impact. I won't dwell on this too much. So these are the collaborations across institutions. There's a lot to be said, but if we look at China, you'll see that China produces by far a lot of research on construction management, international construction management, but only 9% of China's output is from universities or institutions or researchers that have a track record developing towards a theory. So it's just papers with very little context or application to theory building. You can look at that at your leisure. Research focused by country. just to remind you of the dynamics, I want to finish soon. We can see the firms operating in the construction sector. America's presence is still fairly strong. Other countries somewhat stable, and other players, Japanese, Korean, perhaps shrinking. India attempting to emerge. Turkey and China still quite dominant. And in terms of revenue, we can see how it's going down. For a lot of countries, Turkey and China increasing. These are the domains. If we look at the research publication and the content, I want you to notice that it occurs by country or region. So India produces papers, China produces papers, South Korea produces paper, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, Japan. But regionally, Southeast Asia or Central Asia have also produced papers where they talk not about their own area or their own country, but because they feel a lack of confidence, perhaps, that they're relevant, discuss it in terms of a region. And on the Western Hemisphere, well, if we look at publications, 2004 is when it starts. So 20 years. This has only been going for 20 years. And the Chinese had their peak. Then there was the financial crisis or whatever it is. So China continues to dominate it, but you can see others starting to contribute and rise. They're getting onto the game. If we look at the Western Hemisphere, we can say, yes, Mexico, United States, Canada, the UK, Turkey, Iran, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa are producing papers. And then the rest is regional. Like there are papers about all of the Middle East, all of Europe, all of Africa. So sometimes people may not have the confidence to think of their area as being significant enough to contribute without discussing it as a region. All, again, from 2004. 2004, this all began. If we look at it by country, I just give you some examples. China's publication output starting to decline. Japanese, mixed. Middle East, rising. Malaysia, still fairly strong. Look again. Yeah, I never published it. It's very rarely published. Local. I looked at their locals because I lived in Japan, so I sort of have. But just for fun, number of universities in the US over time. China hitting this point here. China's educational reform begins. Boom, number of graduates rising. In Australia, we don't worry about not having engineers. So I remember the president of this engineering association says, well, the Chinese produce 500,000 engineers every year. We just import them. And if we look at mid-rank universities, mid-rank, there's still Harvard, which I think is really starting to slip. We see the universe rankings declining and the Chinese slightly rise. So there's a conversation to be had there. And then if we look again at China leads in publications with Hong Kong, Australia makes a significant contribution. Turkey is the third present. So this is this chart again. You can look at the statistics of H index citations per paper. You can see which ones are fairly good. Deakin is quite good, and a huge range of Chinese institutions there as well. There are the odd ones like National University of Singapore. I mean, Singapore doesn't have dozens of universities, so it's strong on its own. We can see other universities. Where are some Korean ones? Yeah, strong on its own. Strong on its own. But when we talk about research collaborations, these are things that we need to be thinking about. Who are the people doing the research and where are they doing it and on what? And how do we synthesize it to develop a theory of construction management applicable to the global context? Okay, so China, what's the incentive? Rule the world. Right? Rule the world. for the benefit of the rest of us. The Belt and Road, yeah, Belt and Road. I mean, I won't say anything about it. You know this story, right? Everybody knows this story. And I also, just for fun, want to provoke you by suggesting Turkey actually has a place. Doesn't really, but just for fun. Because, as you know, the Ottoman Empire was quite a significant part of the world for 500 years. And, you know, all these countries, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Kuwait, Iraq, Israel, am I allowed to say that word? All of these things are constructed 1920s when the Ottomans collapsed and the British and the French put this all together. But Turkey still has this sense. I visited Turkey. Turkey still has a sense that this is their backyard. And so there's a lot of effort to be involved in this area that people generally are neglecting. So, what's next? What's next? What are the needs of this string of islands? And what is it from the research that's out there with the people doing that research that we can bring together to sort out the problems that we still need to more precisely identify, to elevate the research here that helps this country become stronger, more sustainable, and economically viable, economically resilient. And everybody knows that you can't have a strong economy unless you have a road that connects the factory to the port and all that sort of thing, that has a strong education and so on. So I'll leave you with perhaps one more slide, I think. Come on. Come on. Oh, I'll just skip it. Come on. But I visited a few places and talked about the research that needs to be done. Can you recognize any of them? Huh? Yes, very good. Very good. So there we have it.
Thank you, Igor. Your presentation is very interesting. Yeah, a lot of data and also motivating us here to do more substantial research based on the needs, in our backyard maybe, and we try to collaborate with other institutions, internationally. So you already identified which one is good in maybe some topics, and also I think we can also try to collaborate. But right now, I think we are focusing on how Indonesia and Australia collaborate. And you already also mentioned about your topics. I think Igor is very good in international construction, project and so on. So I think everybody who is interested in doing the same team with Igor, I think can also discuss on Saturday. So I think because of the time, if there is some quick questions from the participant, Pak Bimo first.
Abdul, I'm sorry. I think we have to limit our discussion because we already use more than allotted time. But I have one question, not necessarily to be answered right now, but to be considered and discuss it further. What is the purpose of research? To put us on the ranking map, to broaden our knowledge and understanding about the system phenomenon, or contribute to the industry? This sort of question is always asked by anybody in Indonesia. So when somebody asks for funding for research, for what purpose?
I'll try and answer quickly. Apart from our workload allocation so that we don't have to teach as much. Publication probably doesn't serve a lot of purpose in Australia, because when we generally research, I'm not talking about engineering. Engineering, you find ways to build things better, but in construction management, the surveys that a majority of researchers are using is finding out what people do. It's like anthropology. It's like anthropology. How do you build a canoe? What do the natives do when they build a canoe? So they're finding out what knowledge they already have. They're not adding or discovering knowledge. So it's behind the practitioners. Whereas in, I don't know, astrophysics or something, it's in front of. It's in front of. So we are researching what practitioners do rather than advising practitioners on how they should do, and that's a big problem for the industry. Whereas management theory clearly informs management practice, and I have suggested that we lack that dimension. We don't know where we are going with our research, but the challenges are very real and very dynamic.
Okay, good answer and question, I think. But we have to limit ourselves, yeah, for this first day of this workshop. I think this workshop already, for today, yeah, already achieved the goal to introduce ourselves, yeah, and also some of the research interests and also some issues, yeah, already identified. And also, I think it will also motivate us to come to ITB Campus Jakarta on Saturday. Yeah, so everybody are invited. Yeah, to come to ITB Campus Jakarta on Saturday. So without further, I think I have to close this workshop for today. So thank you very much for everybody in this room and also in Zoom online. Yeah, can you please put the camera on so we can take pictures before we end this workshop? Okay. Okay, so somebody take a screenshot. Okay. Suraji, nice head. Okay, sudah? Okay, thank you very much. We will see you all on Saturday, yeah, in Jakarta. Okay, bye.
See you. See you, Pak Abdul. See you, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.